What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So we're actually going to jump right into round 3 of the Manufacturers Cup here. So I unfortunately wasn't able to do round 2 due to some conflict in my schedule, so dropped a little bit in the standings more than I would have liked, but hoping to make up for it in this race, because as you can see, I qualified with an amazing 2nd place, so hoping to gain a lot of points here. Now this race I think is another example of having a superior strategy, because I elect to start on the hards instead of the mediums as most people do. So right off the start here, I go a little defensive, taking that inside shallow route because I'm trying to avoid a chaotic T1 as most of these races sometimes do. You know, those first couple of corners are quite treacherous here, but coming to the second corner here, this M6 here takes quite an aggressive dive bomb and shoves me out of the way, making room for this Porsche here. So quite the aggressive start from the M6, but I spoke earlier about aggressive and chaotic starts to the race. Take a look behind us to what's going on, all sorts of chaos. We're actually going to switch views to the Ferrari just to see what happened, and I think he gives the Alpha a little bit of a push, and just look how close he was to ruining my race there. Thankfully he misses me by millimeters and my race isn't too badly affected, but a lot going on behind me, and as a result there is going to be a bit of a gap opening up between myself and 4th place, the American there. So lucky for me, I was able to avoid all that chaos, not get punted right off the track and lose my pole position here, sorry, my podium position here. So my main goal at this point, at the start of the race anyway, is to try to keep up with these guys here. You know, I can't be for certain, but I'm pretty sure that these guys are on the mediums. I mean, the 1st place M6 and even this one directly in front of me are kind of pulling away here. So my goal is primarily just to keep up with them on the hards. I don't want to lose too much time between these guys, because if they pit, I still want to maintain and increase the lead in front of them when they do pit. So try not to push too hard, but at the same time not try to lose them too much. So I think it's also worth mentioning that I have my brake bias set all the way to the rear just to try to save the front tires as much as possible, which I think did benefit me in the long run. You'll see a little bit later as the tire wear, my front tires were not nearly as dead as a couple of these guys were. But we're actually going to skip ahead to lap number 7, as the race at this point became pretty stagnant. Even with my hards, I was able to increase the lead to 4th place quite a bit, as you can see from the map there. So did my job, able to keep up with these guys. No, 1st place, he did put up a massive gap between 1st and 2nd, but I was able to keep up with the American in 2nd place here quite nicely. As you can see, my tires on the hards at least about halfway dead in the front, so I can only assume that the M6's mediums in the front of me are going to be that much worse for wear. You know, I think in this race the mediums can last you about 6 to 7, maybe 8 laps if you're really good on tire preservation. So I think at this point I was thinking that they must be pitting soon, as we actually take a look at their tire wear. 1st place and 2nd place both having a little difficulty with that front left tire, which is understandable. So I'm thinking here they're definitely going to be pitting. Now it's my time to push as much as possible on my, you know, somewhat worn hard tires and try to put as much of a gap between myself and these guys, because I'll be in the lead and hopefully I can last at least another 2 or 3 laps on these hards, as yep, they both come into the pits there. So clean air in front of me, nothing to contend with. Now's my chance to put as much distance between myself and 1st and 2nd. As you can see, more and more people coming into the pits, so definitely a lot of people elected to start off with the mediums. I may have been one of the only ones on the hards, but we're actually going to fast forward to lap number 9, and as you can see, that front left tire is hanging on for dear life. I'm kind of struggling here a bit, so I'm thinking I'll pit for this lap, maybe get 6.5 laps out of the mediums, and you know, I'll probably lose my lead here, but they'll be on a couple of lap old hard tires. I'll be on the fresh mediums. I should be able to catch them up pretty quickly. As we pull into the pits here, almost collide with the wall, so not the greatest pit entry there, but luckily I didn't get hit with a 3-second penalty for crossing any of the solid lines. As we take a moment to admire my livery, but I'm actually going to come out here behind a Corvette and in front of the very aggressive M6 at the beginning. So here you can really see what difference fresh set of mediums make on a car who I assume was either on really dead. No, there's no way he was on mediums at this point. We're at like lap number 10. There's no way. So yeah, he must have been on quite the worn hard tires here, but carving up the distance between him and I quite easily. You know, I'm able to brake a lot later, get on the power a lot earlier, so this time between us quickly eroded, and I'm thinking in my head here, well, I'm gonna have to pull and overtake him so he doesn't slow me down too much, because I still have first place to catch up with. But what happens next is something that I haven't seen in ever since playing this game. So we're gonna get the inside, we're gonna go on a bit of a run here, and he actually slows down and doesn't even try to put up a fight with me. So very nice gesture by him. I give him the thank you by flashing my hazards, and I can make a complete hash of that corner there. I was so distracted. But take a look here again. As you can see, side by side, he actually applies the brakes, doesn't even try to put up a fight, gives me the position. Again, flashing the hazards, and I come in quite distracted and slide, but thankfully it didn't go off course. So very nice gesture by the American there. Big head with the not so big head just move. So really appreciate that, giving me, he knows I was faster, gave me the position without much of a fight, so really appreciate that. So coming up to the back straight here, the American, my best friend, Big Head, is going to actually get in a pit, and we're actually going to be able to confirm that he was actually on the hard. So it kind of makes sense why his pace was so much slower than mine, and again, him giving up the space and the position when I was going for the overtake. So we're actually going to fast forward to about midway through lap number 11. As you can see, I somewhat caught up to first place there. He's within my sights. So just got to keep up with the pace. I am closing the gap, but not push too hard here, as I have a Code Brown moment as I think the back wheels touched some grass, and big tank slapper there. Backhand kicks out. I was able to save it, thankfully, but this is the problem when you push a little too hard. You go a little too fast into those corners, and you end up making a hash of it, which I almost did. If I had spun out there, which was very easily could have happened, I would have lost who knows how many seconds in position. So reminding myself that, hey, you know, you are quicker than him, but you shouldn't be pushing too hard too quickly, because you can make a real mess of it real quick. As we're approaching the back straight here, I did manage to set the fastest lap time even with that moment there. So goes to show that I did have the pace, but we're actually going to fast forward again to midway through lap number 12. M6 again, very much within my sight, but this is another case of me pushing a little too hard there, as in those corner exits I'm applying too much gas and getting the back end to come out and carrying a bit too much speed into that exit there, touching grass. Not nearly as big of a moment as before, but a little bit of a moment, and you can see that M6 putting lengths between us now. You know, he was able to pull away ever so slightly. So again, reminding myself to slow the fuck down. And here, fast forward again to the end of lap number 13, very well within his slipstream. So I'm gonna get the slipstream bonus here, gonna reel him in. I'm gonna try to go up the inside on the exit, but he closes that off, so not able to do much there. He is in full defense mode here, so gonna have to try and think up another way to overtake him cleanly without, you know, punting him off, which I think is frowned upon in this game. So he goes a little bit wide there. I am able to carve up some more space, but again, he's cutting off the inside, not much doing. I am able to get some inside space side by side, not much there. Trying to go around the outside, but I didn't have enough momentum. But he did touch grass there. A little bit of a tank slapper, slows him down ever so slightly, but again, nothing doing here. But in this corner, I am able to carve him up a lot faster. So we're going to go up the outside here, thinking I might be able to go all the way around him. He has the inside position, so not much doing. I'm going to see if I can pull the old switcheroo. He does have a little bit of a moment on the exit, but the Ricky Morty livery M6 is putting up a good fight defending, but I am able to overcome here as I end up going around the outside a lot faster than he is. So gonna get the position here, but I cannot afford to breathe a sigh of relief because this race is far from over. I mean, he's well within striking distance. We're approaching the back straight, so he's going to be within my slipstream. So a little bit of a role reversal. So going to have to contend with whatever move he decides to pull at the end of that back straight. So as we're approaching it here, as I said, he has a big moment there, big drifty slide there, but he was able to hold it, and look how close he is to my rear end there. So well within striking distance once again in the slipstream. We're going to see if he's going to do anything, but nope. I closed off the inside, go a little defensive there, make sure he doesn't do anything crazy, try to slip on by, but he is sticking with me even though he is on much more worn hard tires. But my mediums, even though my brake bias is set fully to the back, that front left tire is holding on for dear life. So it's a good thing I didn't pit earlier, because that tire would not have held out to the end of the lap, or the race I should say. So again, just try to keep it clean. You know, the M6 clearly has all kinds of trouble getting out of these corners. I was able to carry a lot more speed and momentum from this long right hand corner. As we actually take a look at his tires, you know, his hards are not that bad. They're only about halfway worn. And stark contrast to my mediums, that front left tire once again nearing the verge of death. But you know, as the lap goes on, I was able to increase the lead I had in front of him, and so he was never really able to catch up with me. You know, but that pit strategy, I think, was the better one. Maybe I could have gone in a little bit later, maybe lap 11 or lap 12, but the end result is I was able to hold him off and secure my very first victory in the Manufacturers Cup. So quite excited. I think it makes up for not being able to do round number 2. But hope you guys enjoyed that race. Let me know what you thought, and I'll catch you guys next time for round number 4. Peace.